All
It's
right.
okay.
We are at the top of the hour and we are back. I've never done a schedule like this ever.
Need a bath?
Need a bathroom break? Is that what you said?
You need a bathroom break. No,
That's what
break.
I thought you asked me. Not yet, but I probably will by the end of this. So, or at least the next one. Anyway. Okay. Can you guys see me? I'm hearing that. I'm saying that you can't. Yes, you can. Oh, okay. Great. All right. So give me 1 second. Rochel, this community here, I don't even want to say audience, but the people here are so incredible, so evolved, so conscious. It's really remarkable. I don't know if you've been on every call, but I guess maybe you have been on some of
Well,
them.
I was teaching and then I had clients, so I tried my best, but I'm definitely going to be listening. I'm very excited.
Okay, so without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce to you Rochel Albert. We just met in the last several weeks. And I mean, I've been hearing about her for quite a while, but I had the chance to meet with her, to actually work with her, to get treated by her a couple of times in the last couple of days, which I'll talk about briefly soon. But let me just introduce her. She pours her passion for health, healing, and love into everything she does. This is her passion. This is her life. She has a goal of bringing healing to the world, and she means it. Besides being an energy healing practitioner, focused on mental and emotional wellness, she is a biofeedback practitioner, a health advocate, a gem therapist, a serial entrepreneur, product designer, and as she says, mommy warrior of 4 awesome kids and happy wife of 26 years. Kane Yerbu. She's authored 3 books, including Medical Scams, appeared on radio and talk shows. And Elena Cardone, so interesting. I just found out about Grant and Elena Cardone a couple months ago when they did a big challenge. She's the driving force behind Mood Tech, which she'll tell you about. And she created the Energy Dynamics program, which is her very, very comprehensive healing, three-level healing and practitioner training program, after realizing that there was a massive gap in the marketplace for kosher emotional energy healing, meaning Torah-based. There are rules in the Torah that apply to all human beings. There are rules that specifically apply to Jewish people, which are more stringent, actually. And one of the things that's unique about Rochel's program is that she, from the very beginning, worked with an expert and authority in Torah law, just to make sure that everything is, spiritually sensitive, even though it's an energy-based program and therefore it's science-based, but it has the distinction of being one of the few people that has that it's called in Hebrew hashgacha, supervision, that consultation, that support. So very, very special. And she will be offering, in case this one is going to take I'm going to have Rochel back on because we're going to have to go into much more detail. So we're really going to have to be disciplined to end at about 5 minutes to the hour, and it won't be nearly enough, I'm telling you right now. So I just want to tell you, we will do it again, Nader. I just want to tell you, she's offering her crash course, which she'll also tell you about when she feels it's the right time, which for 50% off, which will give you a ton of the basics, including some of the techniques that she used to work on me yesterday, which literally clear triggers, emotions, energies. I mean, I felt it in real time and it lasted. So I just wanted to say that. And now that I've said that, thank you for being with us, Rochel, and it's really exciting to have you.
Great. I'm super grateful to be here, Shifra. And thank you so much for organizing this. This is an incredible event and I'm super honored to be here.
Our pleasure. So tell us about healing. And I don't know if you intend to actually demonstrate some or to talk about the techniques or to show us. I mean, you take it away. I don't want to waste any time.
So I actually have a technique I want to teach everybody. We'll get into it in just a few minutes. I'm just going to give a really quick background. I'm a very practical person. I'm not so philosophical. I'm more like grounded in, I like to just okay, so what's the issue? Let's deal with it. And I just jump right into it. I specialize in complex shalom bias issues. And I have a super simplistic.
Shalom bias, please translate. We have people here that have no Torah background, no Hebrew background.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I'm glad you're my filter. So shalom bias is where there is a peace in the home. And it could be with a family member, it could be a mother to a child, or it could be husband to wife. There's a massive pandemic right now going on within our communities of people not having skills to be able to manage the crazy stuff that's going on within our families. And what I'm finding is really more of intergenerational trauma, which is manifesting with all kinds of different, their energy issues that cannot be talked about and cannot be cleared just by talking about it. In fact, most people that by the time they get to me, they've gone to the best therapist and they have the skills. But when you're dealing with a spouse who is extremely triggered by almost every single thing that you do, it's really not possible to even sit down and have a normal conversation, even if you have the most skilled therapist. So what I found, I started working mostly with behavioral issues. My son, I have one son, Rochel, who was in and out of psych wards his whole childhood, and he was damaged from the vaccine, which we did not know that. We didn't know what was wrong with him. He was fine until about 3, and then he just started it was like one of the worst cases the doctors have ever seen. And we tried to control him through psychiatric medications, with 3 or 4 different concoctions at any given time. And it was just awful. And my husband and I, we separated 2 times. We almost got divorced because of it. And
Wow.
And it was extremely traumatizing. I saw, how we struggled. And I just I became so passionate when I found energy work. This was about maybe 10 years ago is when I started segueing into energy work. And it was just so interesting to see how energy work really, really works with these kinds of adults and children. And that's when, when it really, really is an energy issue is when the psychiatric world is not able to help you. So once we started dealing with it from an energy perspective, everything started clicking together for my son.
Wow.
And because I was passionate about energy, I just, I became a gem therapist, and then I became a biofeedback therapist, and I started taking all kinds of different energy courses, and slowly just, kind of took a collection of different things that I was discovering and getting a lot of information that I call a download, kind of just like where you just get this premonition, you get information just sort of given to you. People say, where's it coming from? It's where anybody comes. I'm a creator, an inventor, I'm a problem solver. So it's the same place wherever those answers come from. I don't know, I just get an idea.
Technology, right, art, music, it's all coming from the same place.
It all comes from the same place. So
I don't
really
Hamaskiel for anybody who wants to know the Kabbalah. The source of the mind.
Yeah. So what happened was I started, really specializing in mentally ill people and started getting amazing results with them. And people were coming off their meds and they're starting to get better. And then, I don't know, just my name just started spreading. And I worked initially with a lot of the chronic patients who were in the hospital. And these people were given a death sentence that they probably were not going to be able to make it. They're on ventilators. And I found that most of these people had a lot of lack of forgiveness stuck in their lungs. And that's why the lungs were not healing, is because of these lack of forgiveness, grief, emotions that I know that Dr. Bradley Nelson, who's going to be on later, talks about. And so, clearing it is very important for sure as part of their ability to heal. But when they would come home, now suddenly there was this whole dynamic that they're like, can you help us with this problem now? Our problem hasn't gotten away just because my husband's home from the hospital. Yes, we're grateful he's home, but our marriage is still a mess. And it was very interesting. A lot of the people that got sick in the hospital didn't necessarily want to go home. They didn't have a motivation to get better because they had these Gehenna marriages at home. Not saying everybody.
Even if it's not marriage, that happens a lot. So many times you can see that people choose. There's much more choice than we realize, but it's mostly unconscious.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I jumped into the whole marriage arena, and the psychiatric issue I was already dealing with that. And slowly, the lady's like, well, I was divorcing my husband either way, so it didn't matter to me. And now suddenly they're back together, and just slowly created patterns and systems to work through the triggers, work through the issues from an energy perspective. When couples come to me, I don't really care their problem per se. I just want to know their pain point. Like, what is the issue? I don't need to know the whole story, because honestly, most people have, it's the same story, different point. We got married, he got triggered, I had this issue, I shut down, we stopped having intimacy, whatever, da, da, da. It's pretty much all, from my perspective, it's the same. Like, you don't want to talk to us? I'm like, I have nothing to talk to you about. You guys have already told your story to how many therapists at this stage, So let's just deal with triggers first, okay? So I want to deactivate you guys from all of your triggers. So that's the first thing we do, is deactivate triggers, which could take up to a month to 2 months sometimes, depending on what's going on with them.
How many sessions? When you say that, how many sessions would happen?
So usually it's 1 session per week. We go slow, especially if I'm working on a spouse, because often by the time they get to me, often the spouse is like checked out. They're like, we're done, we're getting divorced. And, So the first thing I want to find out is, first of all, is there hope I can get this couple back together? That's my first question. Because if there's no hope, I don't even want to try. I want to take the case. Second thing is, I want to find out, does he still love her? And does she still love him under all of this pain? Wow. If I get a yes for both of those, then I will progress to find out, okay, how much of it is energy that I have to deal with, and how much of it is actually talking. And most of the time it's around 70 to 80% of energy that has to be cleared. So I don't want to talk to you guys. Let me just work on you for like a month to 2 months, depending on what's needed. And just doing that, people are like, wow, we're actually getting along suddenly, because there's no more triggers happening. So with that, let me just quickly explain for those people that don't know what an energy system is. People ask me this question, or they say, I don't believe in this stuff, or, whatever.
And also how you're finding out how you're getting answers to those questions you're asking, and how you know it's accurate. I think that's a question a lot of people usually have.
Absolutely. So, the Torah goes into what we can and cannot do, believe it or not, within the energy space. And energy is everything. I mean, a man was created initially from an energy perspective, and then he was created again in a physical perspective, and Hashem took those two and blended them together. And what we're working on is that energy space that connects those two together, that is filled with information. And so we teach how to do this. It's called medical intuition. And there's many ways that you could do this. There's something called kinesiology for those people that know how to do that. And, someone's going to push on your hand, and based on the answer, you hold like some kind of a vitamin to you, and you can feel, like there's a resistance, like your body likes it or it doesn't like it. Right. And then there's the sway test. You can go back and forth. Yes would be a no, and no is forward. Or there's this way with the 2 fingers, like going like this. And I teach a very specific method, and that is where it's called kinetic testing. And that is where you put your fingers together like this, and you get like a sticky for a yes and a smooth for a no. And I like this because it's super discreet. Nobody knows what you're doing. You're at Whole Foods. I'm talking to my client, I'm like energy checking what they're, saying to me. And imagine, like, I have to hold my phone. I've got to use 2 fingers like this, or I'm driving I do a lot of work when I'm driving, also talking to clients, and they're asking me, and I have one hand on the wheel and I'm checking like this. So it's the simplest way. It's the hardest form of medical intuition that I teach, and I encourage people to learn it. That's what we work on for a few months. For some people right out the door, they get it, and other people, they just really struggle with it. And that is because we have this self-doubt, and, oh, you don't deserve to do this work, or I don't even believe this work. Like, this is ridiculous. How could this work? So there's a lot of stuff that we have to work through, that we work through every day. We have class in the course that I teach from 10 to 10:30. And for level 1, we just work through all the stuff that blocks us from stepping into our power. So, so that's what I do. So when I check somebody, I'm testing, I pull up their energy system. Okay, you could do this without even pulling them up. And how do we know this? Is because if a person speaks lashon hara, which is evil speech about somebody, it affects them. It really does. Same thing if you daven for somebody, you have them in mind, you have the intention for that person, it affects them. So we know that we can do this. There's something called telepathy. We are so dumbed down, so shut down. Fluoride has done a number on our pineal gland and our ability to access Hashem and our own intuition. So we have to get back to our old basics. This is old healing methods. that we now really need, because the medical system is really failing us on so many different levels. And the psychology world and the psychiatry world, I mean, they're at a loss what to do with a lot of these people.
Rochel, before you continue, we do need to keep tight to time because we're so tightly stacked, but a few people have asked, how do you know that it's coming from the right place when you get an answer and not from the wrong place?
Absolutely, great question. So first of all, in the Torah, it's very specific. You cannot contact the dead for answers. It actually says that. So that means that there is something called contacting the dead to get answers. There are some people that actually communicate with the angels. We don't deal with angels at all in this course. We don't even teach how to access them. We are only connected to Hashem. That's it. And your own intuition. That's it. We're not asking for any help from anybody.
Very smart.
Okay, that's it. Because you don't know, like for instance, there was one lady that she was getting answers from an angel, and I'm like, I'm energy tester. I'm like, this is not a good angel, even though this angel convinced her that it was a good angel. So we don't want to be reliant on anybody. We just only connect to Hashem, and that's it.
Yeah, I want to second that and third that, guys. I would never be a client of somebody who was talking to guides and forces and whatever, not intentionally anyway, because how do you know who you're talking to? It's a foreign power.
I mean, it's also, the first class that we teach is Rabbi Raphael Smirla, who's the world authority on energy medicine. So he gives over the first class, and he goes through halacha. That is very important to us to make sure, because there's a fine line between where kosher energy therapy stops and the free-for-all of the world. You could just go on and on and on. And when people call me and I'm like, listen, you're not religious and you're not, into God and this and that, there's tons of programs you can take that are out there that just, it's a free-for-all where you go. But the Torah is very specific. We cannot go to a medium, which is connecting to the spirit world. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to go into a trance to like foresee events, which means that this stuff is real. It means you can see the future. We're not allowed to engage in astrology, which is really interesting. We're not allowed to mutter incantations. You're not allowed to
predict the future with astrology. You are allowed to use it as character analysis.
Well, it says right here not to engage in astrology. So whatever that means, there's a quote here from whichever.
A friend of mine used to be a very big astrologer in Israel, and she consulted extensively with rabbinical authorities.
I'm sure. I mean, that's the part. Sometimes you need that kind of clarity to really clarify exactly what Hashem has in mind when he says this, right? And we're not allowed to perform magic. Well, if magic isn't real, that means the Torah wouldn't bother saying you can't do magic. So there's a lot of things that, when we light Shabbos candles, what are we doing? That's what magicians, that's what, a witch does. She lights a candle and she says a spell. So we have to know, where is that boundary? What are we doing? What is the intention? That's really what the difference is, honestly, between a lot of the things that we do. So with that being said, any other quick questions? Because I want to go right into how to deal with triggers, which is everyone.
Yeah, let's go into the material. I think we're good for now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's first talk about what is a trigger. A trigger, often people say, I'm so triggered by him. Oh my gosh, it makes me crazy, right? So what is a trigger? It's our stress response to a perceived danger from a feeling that is being populated from the subconscious mind, from a previously painful experience. Okay, in other words, we had a bad experience and the subconscious mind registered that. And now this person in front of us is causing us to go back into that previous experience. And the body's like, hello, we have a problem. I look at it like a energy allergy. It's an allergy. Your body's having an allergic reaction to this person's reaction or whatever they're saying to you. So if you ate something that you're not supposed to eat and your eyes start watering like crazy, do you have any control of that? No, you can't say, eyes stop watering, stop, why are you crying? You have no control of it. So these reactions that are coming from the subconscious mind, we have no control over. And for you to try to get upset that your husband's having a trigger reaction to you, it felt like his fault, right? He shouldn't react like that. He can control it because this is coming from the subconscious mind.
Wow.
So this creates a fight, right? I'm gonna fight you, or a flight. Out of here, get my purse, I'm gone to my mom's, or a freeze, which is like a shutdown. Like you just see the person just shut down and they're just like out of commission until they recover, or they want to take revenge against you because you've now hurt them. It's all these dysfunctional behaviors that are being caused by a person, and we don't really have any control of it. It's a very disempowering feeling. It's an awful feeling coming from the sympathetic nervous system, right? It throws us right into this reactive shutdown or feeling like we have to run away. So the goal, which is what I want to teach you on a very simple level, is to deactivate these triggers so they can no longer affect us. And I'm here to tell you, countless marriages have been saved by using this technique. I'm telling you, this is the #1 game changer. I'm actually writing a book called Challahs and Kahlas, and it's about how to have a
the Shabbat bread and the bride.
And they have a lot in common, by the way. The bride needs time to rise to get her ready for her groom, and a lot of men unfortunately are not taught this. And I do it with a lot of shalom bias and intimacy dysfunctional issues as well, as part of what we do with the whole marriage revamp. So, but it goes into this whole trigger concept as well, because for me, this is, a lot of girls are very triggered. Maybe they've had their own sexual trauma with a family member. Now they're going into to be with their husband, and the whole thing is just a disaster from day one. And then by the time they get to me, I mean, she's locked him out of the bedroom. Like, she's not interested. Don't touch me, and he's just like, what the heck's going on with my wife? Like, he doesn't get what's going on. So triggers, this just goes across the board on so many different spaces. Okay. So the first thing, we're going to do hands-on training. I'm going to go slowly. I try to copy and paste this, but it just would not go into the chat box. So I'm going to try my best. Can I share my screen? Would that be a possibility that I could share my screen?
David has to give permission, I think. Okay. Can you do that, David?
Right. No,
it's fine. No, it's fine. We should be able to do that.
Okay, fine. I was trying to copy it, but it won't let me copy. I don't know why that is.
Okay, try to share. Okay. Also, I just want to point out, if this isn't obvious, that this doesn't only apply to marital relationships, it applies to all relationships, and even your relationship with yourself, which probably is the biggest source of trigger. I mean, anytime someone triggers you, you're really triggering yourself anyway. And I recently heard someone say you can't be triggered if you're not already loaded.
Well, and I agree with you, but so that's a beautiful thing, but how in the world do you fix it?
Yeah. Well, can you show us this without, if people don't know how to do muscle testing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Great.
So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how I would do it if I was working on you. Okay. So like, for instance, yesterday we were working on your triggers, which you brought it up. Okay. So she told me a specific issue that she was feeling stressed about or having an issue with. The first question I would ask, now I do my kinesiology, it's a type of form of kinesiology. It's really more kinetic testing. Okay. And you see, like, I'm getting like a sticky feeling between my fingers. Feel like a little piece of sand is there. And so I would say, does she have a trigger related to this issue? And I've got a yes. So then I'd want to find out the age. Okay. The age trigger. So I would start with, is it before birth? And no, and I go, is it from 1 to 10? Yes. 1 to, say it was 3 years of age. And I feel like, oh, suddenly, there it is. 1, 2, 3. I just go up and down on the age of 3 until it clears. 4, 5, 6, up and down until the 6 clears. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, is it 10 to 20, 20 to 30? Oh, 31's another one. There we go, clearing it out. And then I asked you, how are you feeling? And we went back and forth about a couple of things. You said, oh, I'm feeling so much fear now. Something got invoked within you with what we were doing. I said, fine, because you're feeling fear. Let's see where it's coming from. It was also an age, around 3. So I just went to the fear and I just cleared out the age at 3 years of having the fear trigger response. And you said, wow, it just vanished. It's amazing.
Really fast. Does everybody understand what Rochel is doing? She's doing a combination of, she's asking questions, she's checking yes or no with this method, and she's moving the energy. She's clearing the energy when she's doing this. She's literally, I have to tell you, I'm really, really, really glad that she reached out quite a few times before I received the session. And it's so good that I did. We had two, because it was remarkable how fast it was. And it wasn't just that it was fast at the time, more energy can come and go. But when the first time that she did this, she did it releasing was about 25 minutes, not more, maybe less. And I was in a completely different place. I went to bed in a completely different place. I got up in a completely different place. I had an amazing day. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting. I just want everybody to know it's real. What do you call it? Somebody wants to know what you call this.
Oh, this is called kinetic testing.
Kinetic testing. The energy modality.
Oh, this is called, it's a program that we've created. It's called Energy Dynamics Program. It's kosher energy healing is what we call it, or kosher energy therapy. Yeah.
Somebody
it's
asked.
Called you'll find it on Mood Tech, moodtek.com.
Which is underneath your video. It's underneath this video.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have like 10 hours of free videos if anybody wants to watch about all kinds of different topics.
Amazing. And how are the free videos different from the crash course that you're offering at a 50% off?
Oh, okay. So the crash course goes into this testing, to the kinetic testing. You learn how to clear some of the triggers that we're talking about today. We also go into how to protect your energy system. We also talk about what is the energy system, the anatomy of the energy system, because just like the physical body has systems, so does the energy system, like meridian lines. We've heard about auras, we've heard about chakras or energy systems, or energy centers. We have the brain, which is part of the electrical system, which is definitely energy, and we have the spine. And every part and piece of the body has got energy. If there's no energy, it dies. So you learn all about this. And then you also, I'm trying to think what else you learn. That's the basics. So it's about 7 to 9 hours of instruction. You go into halacha as well, learn about happiness, what steals our happiness, general clearing as well. It's very important to know how to generally clear yourself on a simple level. It's really a crash course to get you excited to like, whoa, now I know what I'm going to get for level 1. So the class is broken up with level 1, level 2, level 3 is practitioner. And so we could talk about that. I don't have time to go into that right now, but we have a lot of classes under the free classes that you can watch. Some of them are from the actual course, and some are just lectures that I've given. Like we gave a class on behavioral issues. That's not part of the class. Also, all kinds of different things.
So I don't want to interrupt you. They're just tell me how much we can navigate with questions. And somebody asked if you could do a quick demo again, now that they understand.
No, we haven't. Okay, so I was just showing you that's how I would do it. I'm not teaching that today because that's making so many assumptions that most people don't have. So we're going to do this on a really, really basic level. Okay, can I share my screen or not? I couldn't quite. I said share my screen, but it says host disabled participant.
Can you enable it? David is the host. David, we can't hear you. Can you enable the screen?
The whole thing, there we go. Okay, the whole thing takes, if you know how to do this, it's about a 1-minute procedure. Okay, it's really fast. Okay, you identify the particular trigger. Let's say like, when my daughter drops something on the floor, I flip out, right? Why do I flip out? Like she just dropped something on the floor. Why did I get so upset with her, right? That means something happened to me when I was a child that my mother might have had the same reaction, or she would be on my case about whatever. So I would go back in time and I say, okay, I'm triggered by this kid. Why am I triggered? What's the age? You go by age, up, down, and it's 3 years of age, 4 years of age, 5 years, You find it's a lot of triggers when you're little, okay? They're out of your subconscious, they're out of your conscious awareness, but you're getting triggered, okay? So that's one way to do it, just do it by age. But for those people that don't know how to check, we're just gonna have to do every age. So the first step is to charge your hands. Now, some people's hands are always charged, no matter what they do. Okay, they're just walking around, their hands are charged. But if your hands are not charged, there's a couple ways to do it. The first way is just to put your hands up like this, like a beggar, and say, Hashem, please charge my hands. And you want to be specific to Hashem, nothing else, okay? Because you don't know who's coming along. You wait for about 30 seconds. Now that's one way to do it. Now you'll feel like almost like a heaviness, or you'll feel like a tingle. Some people feel like a warmth on their hands. Okay, you definitely will feel it. Everybody feels this. Now, if you don't feel it for whatever reason, the other way you could do it is you can just clap like 5 times and just kind of feel the energy coming. You almost like you feel like an energy ball between your hands where you're feeling like this resistance of energy. And that's how you create a charge, okay? Now, you also want to create a bubble while you're at it. Create a bubble, an energy bubble. And then you want to throw the following scenario with intention into your bubble. You first want to identify the trigger. Okay, so let's say like when my kids make a mess, I get super angry. Okay, very common that mothers get angry. There's lots of reasons why, but how angry do you get is really the determining factors to whether it's a trigger. There's appropriate anger, like I'm frustrated, I just cleaned the house, now you made a mess, you know, or do you like literally lose it that you just don't know what the heck happened to you? That's a trigger response, okay? And that's what we're talking about. And it creates a lot of dysfunction within. If a mother's losing it every 5 seconds, the poor kids do not feel safe. Okay, so let's say that's your scenario. So I'm getting super angry, right? And just, okay, or an example, the big one is my husband criticizes me and I get upset and I just shut down. I can't recover. I just can't recover for days. Like I'm just holding this grudge against me, just criticize me. And all these feelings are coming up. Okay. So first you want to identify your trigger. So I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to just think about a trigger or 1 or 2 triggers that you feel you get triggered by. The next one is you want to identify, why do I get upset or angry with this? Okay. As an example, what feelings are being invoked? Okay. For instance, the self-talk is that my kids don't care about me, right? My husband doesn't love me, whatever the reason. Okay. So you want to think about that and you want to put that into your bubble. Okay. So you're thinking about it. My husband's criticizing me. I'm putting it into the bubble. You're thinking about my husband. He's criticizing me. And it makes me feel so sad because, you know, I try so hard as a wife and he just constantly focuses on my negativity and it just makes me feel so sad. Okay. Then you want to go into why does it make you upset, right? What feelings? My husband doesn't love me, or my kids don't care about me, or whatever the emotions are. You don't want to judge this. This is just simply identifying within your subconscious, conscious brain that what's going on here. Once we identify it, then you can clear it. Now you want to identify all the places in your subconscious mind that you felt this way, that people don't care about you or love you. For an example, my mother used to get upset when I would make a mess, or she would call me names, you slob, you this, you that, whatever. Okay. And that created pain. It created trauma on me. And that's just still sitting there on my system. Now, when this happens, it invokes those same emotions that I felt when she did that. I'm just not aware of it because when things don't happen, I'm fine. But then when it happens, suddenly I like lose it. Want to throw this into the energy bubble. Okay, we want to throw all this energy garbage into the bubble like that. Just throw it all in. Think about all the scenarios regarding that trigger. And then you want to say, Hashem, please release all the triggers regarding this issue from all timelines and ages. And you want to count your ages, okay? Now, I like to wave my hand. Now, it's way easier if you just know the specific ages. You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you know, 60, you're like going all the way over. But if you don't know how to do it, then it takes an extra minute to do it by age. Now, I like to start actually past life because believe it or not, sometimes we do have stuff that we brought from us, with us from our past life. So, you know, you just go past life, conception. And yes, there's tons of conception trauma that goes on, which we deal with a lot. Conception trauma is a disconnect between husband and wife. It is really very common, unfortunately, within a lot of the Hasidic world, especially for the first kid, where mother was completely traumatized during intimacy, and that trauma that gets transferred onto the child, and then it just carries on. So we have to clear that. But anyway, it may not be necessarily a trigger, but it often is a trigger. And it could be on us, and we don't even realize why it is that we get shut down during intimacy with our husband, whom we love, but yet we just can't seem to get there. And often it is a trigger from conception. So we go conception, and you could, and you don't, I just basically wave my hand as you go up and down the age. Okay, so you're going to go conception, pregnancy, birth, actually, birth is a big one too. Birth, 1, 2, 3, 4, just go all the way. So we're just going to take about a minute to give everybody a chance to just sort of work through the whole age line. And we will carry on in about 1 minute. Just give everyone a chance to catch up to where we are. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I just know we're kind of on a timeline. You can rewatch this video as many times as you want.
Or you can get the crash, and you can get the crash course and see where you want to go with that.
Correct. Okay, so you're doing all the ages. Okay, now if you know how to energy check it, then you can just, you'll feel it with the age. You'll go, oh, there's one at 3, there's one at 4, there's one at 5, oh, there's 1, 10, 11, da, da, da. Nothing from 10 to 20, 20, oh, 20 to 30, oh, 21, there we go, there's another one. But if you don't know, just keep going, waving it up and down or back and forth, doesn't matter which way. Okay, now once you've done all that, you want to pop the bubble. And you want to disconnect yourself from all that and throw it up to Hashem. And breathe and say, thank you, Hashem.
So you're literally just doing representative movements that seem to actually heal people.
They do. They absolutely do. Yes. Then you want to tap your pinkies together a few times and say, I'm okay. I'm safe. Like that. Just to let your system know, I'm good now. I'm fine. Now, the complaint I get is, but he keeps doing this to me, and it may not trigger me, but it's not nice, right? What do I do when he keeps doing this to me? So you can say stuff like, when you say things like that, it's very hurtful to me, and the husband's would go, oh, well, you're too sensitive, right? So we work on this in the course, in our marriage course, because we have a whole marriage course on that. And that's how to set boundaries. A lot of people don't have boundaries, their boundaries are way too high or they have none at all. And so we need to find that balance. So, we learned some skills on how to communicate in a way that hopefully your spouse and your children will hear what you're saying, that it doesn't escalate to like out of control behavior. So the husband like, oh, you're too sensitive. And you say, well, now I feel dismissed by you. Please apologize. That's not nice, and if they don't really get it, that's when, we pull them into the therapy session. And that's when therapy really, really works. Mm-hmm. They've deactivated the triggers. And now we're working on boundaries. Boundaries is the next thing that we tackle, or the first thing that we tackle when we start working on our marriage. And a boundary is something like this. Don't criticize me. Okay. He criticizes me all the time. So he criticizes me. And I say, sweetie, you're criticizing me. Oh, you're so sensitive. Oh, no, that's boundary number 2. Don't dismiss me. Okay. And so we have a whole list. Sometimes people come with, 4 or 5 boundaries, and sometimes they've got 50. It's like, can you pick 10? It's a little overwhelming to look at your list here. But so I have the husband give me his list and the wife gives me her list. And we try to put a structure together, because at this stage, by the time they're like, there's nothing going on. There's no boundaries. There's, it's a mess what's happening. So we have to create a structure. So that structure starts with boundaries. So we first start with the boundaries. If we can get through the boundaries, which sometimes is extremely triggering. So I'm still clearing down all the triggers. Okay, hold on, wait 1 second. Let me clear that trigger while you're feeling triggered about that. I said, why are you feeling triggered about that? Right? I had this one guy only had one boundary for his wife. And that is, don't ask me to do housework. I thought, oh, that's so simple. Let me just get her on the phone and great, no problem. And she got so shut down by that trigger. She literally, I just saw her face. I have to go. I'm like, oh my God. Okay. I hung up the phone with the husband. I'm like, what happened? Like, I realized she was super triggered, which I hadn't cleared that yet. She was triggered by just his whole attitude towards housework. And that was his only request on the boundary list. So I thought, so you just never know. And you can't, and to me, I thought it was kind of like petty, but for her, it was like the whole essence of the way their marriage is going down. So we got to get to the nitty gritties. And so when we get to the boundaries and you deactivate the triggers, things start opening for couples. The next thing we work on is we work on the needs list. These are my core needs of what I need. And unfortunately, people are dating. They don't really know this. I do some dating coaching as well. And
do you want to be back on? Do you want to be back? Do you need the screen share, or people are asking if they can see?
So sorry. Great point. Thank you so much. I do forget that. Okay. So the thing is that, so when people approach me for dating coaching, I want to help them understand, well, what do you need? Not what do you want, but what do you need? Because they are different. And often when we're looking for a spouse, we're focused on what we want. So he's good looking and he's tall and he's what I'm looking for. He's rich or he's got a good job. And I remember a matchmaker said once, those are 3 different guys, in my opinion, but yet we want it all, right? But at the end of the day, we need somebody that gets us, right? That's a need. And so I try to help people understand, what do you need? So we have to go back to basics. What are you not getting in this relationship that you need? And sometimes you can't necessarily get it because your husband's emotionally shut down. And we deal with that. It's called a low emotional IQ. And that's usually caused from triggers. So the brain will disconnect. We deal with all kinds of brain issues in this program that really helps repair the brain. We call it brain mapping, and we deal with it from like dealing with focus issues and emotional IQ issues, people that our emotional centers are totally shut down. It has nothing to do with them. Often, their grandparents were in the Holocaust, and when their kids were born, it was like, it is not safe to feel emotion. So let's just disconnect those parts of the brain that are responsible for emotions. They don't even realize they don't feel emotions. Like, what is she talking about? Emotions? Like, what is that? Like, and so I have to reconnect. We have to reconnect the parts of the emotional center that are disconnected, right? People are asking about personality disorders. I don't like personality disorders. Let me tell you my opinion of a personality disorder, okay? It's crazy, distorted energy all over the place, often multi-generational coming in. We've gone through so much trauma as a nation, and it's just a mess what's going on. I don't believe that Hashem created people just to suffer with these bipolar personality disorders for the rest of our lives. I believe it's here. The more intense it is, the more it's ready to be processed, honestly, in my opinion. And we do see that people do get better, which is really amazing.
Do people have to know that you're working on them? So
my rule of thumb is, as long as it's a husband who's married, like if my husband, because a lot of people, by the time their marriages are a mess, they're just like, I'm just tired, I'm done. So they're not going to participate initially. So no, husbands and children and parents, the initial soul family, I'm fine with just getting permission from one of them. Outside of that, I will not work on them unless the other person's involved. What I will tell the wife, usually it's a husband situation, I'll tell the wife, also narcissistic. It's the same thing. I'm telling you, how many of my clients said my husband's narcissistic? I clear him, and now he's talking to me. I'm like, if your husband was narcissistic, he would not be on the phone with me. I promise you. Okay, that's the reality. So, so what I tell the wives is, please, sit your husband down and say, I'm willing to try this one more time, and I would love you to share your issues that you have with me, with my therapist. I'd say, don't say his problem. Don't even mention his issue. It's not about him. It's about you. My goal is to get him on the phone, because most of these guys are not going to talk to me. And they're like, oh, he's never going to talk to you. And I work with a lot of Hasidic guys. I say half my clientele is like somewhere Satmar.
That's the ultra Orthodox. The ultra Orthodox Jewish communities, not all.
Correct. So these men are ultra religious and they wouldn't be caught dead talking to a woman. So she's like, he won't talk to you. But I've never once had a situation where they actually say no once we present it the right way. And what I find is once I get them on the phone, I cannot get them off the phone. I'm like, I gotta go. Like my next client's calling because they see like, well, this actually can work, and they start feeling better.
Do you have to be working with the person present? I guess you don't, or you wouldn't be working them unaware.
No.
Does it make a difference at all? Why do you have to have the spouse on the phone?
Oh, well, because when we start working on skills with them about they got to stop doing certain things, or, with the boundaries and the needs list, like, and, you want to get your marriage back together. And then often couples haven't had intimacy for multiple years. I think the maximum was 5 by the time that they came to me. And I think it was 3 months. Okay. So now when she go in the mikvah, like, let's come on. And I was like on a timeline here. And Baruch Hashem, like pretty much it just, that's the last thing we work on, which we're like, what's going on? What's broken here?
Wow.
So if you can't get them off the phone or can't get them on the phone, listen, we try our best, but I haven't had a situation yet where I haven't been able to get people on the phone, unless it was a situation where they didn't want the spouse back. And I don't take those cases anymore. I realized, like, I used to have hope, like, oh, we're going to do our work. But if they're just so done that they are not interested at all, ever, there's no hope, no matter what I do. Worst case scenario, we can make him so he's more stable. And that's what I tell couples. I say, I may not be able to get your marriage back together, but worst case scenario, you'll end as friends. So you'll be more healthy for the next round, So that's the worst case. But usually it works very effectively. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah. So somebody's asking about a relative who passed. I don't really understand the question.
Well, I get what she's asking. It's true. Sometimes we have relatives that are actually hanging out in our homes, on our systems. They didn't make it over to the next world. We do deal with that in level 3. It's more advanced training that we do. But yeah, it's definitely stuff that we deal with. We deal with everything from A to Z. There's nothing taboo. There's nothing that we don't deal with in this program.
Were you always like this?
No, not at all. In fact, for me, I was like, I took Bradley Nelson's course many years ago. And I was like, I'm not getting this. I can't do this. This is crazy. I was so frustrated. And then I took another person's program and I also couldn't do that program. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I took another course on this person that taught it like this with this particular kinetic testing. And for me, this was more doable. And so it took me a year to really master it. I'm super slow on the uptake, but when I get it. And so that's just how it is. And so we have lots of different people who are taking the course. We have some medical doctors. We have a psychologist overseeing our energy psychology program that we're now teaching. And we have all kinds of people that are joining. We have all kinds of different specialists that are coming in because it really just adds a whole other level to your healing that you're doing for people. Even therapists, that are now psychotherapists, they're saying it's like a completely different example. They come in with their problem and it's not like you're sitting there and empathizing with them. You're actually moving the energy for them and helping them, empowering them.
So
it's a totally different level.
Were you always non-judgmental about, I know that you hear things that might shock a lot of people. Were you always good with that, or that just developed as you started to deal with things?
Totally grew up with major judgment. I was always a super judgmental person. And that's why, honestly, I almost got divorced, is because my husband could not deal with my intense judgment that he was, in my opinion, totally inept father. And he's okay with me saying that because this was just the reality of it. And I find a lot of women have the same patterns with their husbands, is that they're like looking, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, and these poor guys, they don't have coping skills, not their fault. And then they're triggered on top of that and they're shutting down. And the women are like, what's wrong with you? And it just creates a total nightmare. Yeah. So I worked
find that in a number of months, relationships, whether that kind or other kinds, can go from complete multi-level mess to calm and peaceful and healthy?
Well, yes, I would say the max is about 6 months. Yeah,
Oh.
totally. Yeah.
And I know you have, I know you have a lot of practitioners that work with you because you can't handle the caseload by yourself. And people have to pass a lot of requirements to become a practitioner that works with you. But the course itself, is the course itself available? Obviously, the crash course is available for anybody who wants it, and I highly recommend it. And you can get it for 50% off from the link below this video, and the free classes that you have on your website. But are there prerequisites to joining your training program, that 3-level training program?
Level 1 and actually, you can go all the way through to practitioner. The only difference is because I exclusively work with the From community.
Jewish religious community. Yeah.
Correct. That's pretty much my niche. So if somebody is not Shomer Shabbos, for instance, or they are not a righteous Gentile, and I don't say you have to be a religious Jew, but there's a certain level of fearing God.
Torah familiar, Torah based, Torah comfortable, Torah imbued.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what you're
Correct.
saying.
That I wouldn't necessarily take you as a mentor, but you could definitely go through, I would not mentor you in terms of that because of just the nature of the types of clientele that I work with. But they could take the whole course. I just don't offer the mentorship part of it.
They could be a practitioner themselves in their own
yes,
realm.
And a lot of people are practitioners. Many people are already practitioners that come. And we have, if you want to watch on the homepage of our, of the free classes, I think the last class we gave was on mental illness. And we have Leah Luna, who's a psychologist, who's talked about her experience.
A friend of mine, yeah.
And a few therapists who are talking about the results they're getting using our program, which is just blowing the socks off the whole therapy world.
Yeah, she's telling me all kinds of crazy stories. I have a few very close people that have been trained by you, which is how I actually started to hear about you. And here we have Ita, who's another friend who seems to be a student of yours. So Ita's mentioning now that, and you've told me this many times, that part of the process of training is people have to get clean. Trainees have to get clean from their own stuff because you can't carry your own messed up energy into healing someone else. So it's very comprehensive, and it's quite amazing. All this information should be under the video. If you're on the Zoom, on top of the bio or under the bio on the schedule page. And if it's not there, let us know, but I think it's all there. And yeah, I definitely want to learn more. I'm hearing besides what I experienced, I'm hearing some quite amazing things. And, this is one healing method, but it's a comprehensive one. It's a powerful one. It's a fast one. And there's a comprehensive training program, and it is certified specifically, not that it's exclusive to, but it's certified specifically for people who are adhering to the Torah law, which, as I said earlier, is kind of stringent in some ways. So I know there are more questions. We will have to have Rochel back for, not in a summit where we can have more time and go deeper. But I just want to thank you. It's so awesome to have met you and to start working with you. And really looking forward to more. And everybody, hang on for our next guest, amazing Deborah Poneman, who will be on at the top of the hour.
I really appreciate it. Oh, and also, just if anybody wants more information, it's at moodtek, moodtek.com.
Yeah, we have the link to your website as well. Yeah, so you don't have to you write it down, but you don't have to. We have everything available for you.
I just want to say that we have class every day, and we work on our mitos, on our marriages, on our stuff, our core issues. And for me, it's very important that before I send you off to the world to become a therapist, you work on your stuff. And I'm very strict about this.
Yeah.
People, I don't see the end in sight. I'm like, no, there is. Trust me, there's an end. We just keep going. We just keep going. And eventually you will, before you know it, you'll be seeing clients. So yeah. Thank you so much. It's been a really, really beautiful experience. Thank you.
Great. For me too. Okay, I'm going off camera. Guys, I'll see you in 5 minutes. Take care, Rochel.
Bye. Does anybody have any questions they want me to ask or answer while I'm still on for another minute until she comes back? I'm happy
Oh,
to.
she's just taking a break before the next caller, so you probably should hit the end button at the bottom right.
Okay, fine.
Well, if
You want
Rochel
me to-
wants to answer a few questions for 3 minutes, great. I mean, if
Okay.
people have questions. I'm leaving though. Got to go.
Okay, I just got to take her break. Okay, fine. All right. Well, yeah. So there's no questions. Beautiful. Talking about communication. Yeah. So the thing is with communication, it's difficult to get through communication if you're triggered. That is one thing I realized is you can have a normal conversation with somebody, but if you're triggered in that conversation, you're not going to be able to think straight because your logical brain is going to shut off. With previous incarnations, past life stuff, we deal a little. We deal a little bit with past life stuff, but not and unless it's we don't like dig into our past life, but unless it's related to what we're dealing with in this life, then we don't go into the back. Can a couple? Yes, they can do it together. Of course, we encourage them. And we also give a 50% discount to the spouse if they're doing it with their wife. We have a few couple teams that are just, I've had 4 men call me and go, I cannot believe how my wife has changed in so many different ways. And just want to thank you so much. It's really beautiful. Do you deal with awareness on the cause of the? Yes, absolutely. We deal with we have 60 different causes. That's in level 1 that we deal with. Previous incarnations didn't include, is that included? Yes. How do you approach 50-year-old men ignoring his parents? That's part of the coaching, and we want to understand that, we do go into keep it off at aim to understand the basics. Do you ever use pendulums? Some of the clients, some of my practitioners do use pendulums until their intuition comes in. It's an old-fashioned way. It's very slow. This way is super, super fast. Yes, people, we do house clearing. We clear out spirits from people's homes, demons, all kinds of things, whatever. It's not scary. People go, oh, it's so scary. It's not scary. When you're working through Hashem, nothing's scary, okay? And so with Keep It Off Aim, it's huge, huge, huge problem. We clarify absolutely what is you have to do. It's not optional. You've got to respect your parents. They might be super abusive. And again, once we heal them in a wholesome space and we give them some communication skills, they might be a totally crazy lunatic parent, but you put a boundary there and with certainty. Rabbi Wallerstein just wrote an amazing book called, I think it's called Respect and Revere Them. I recommend it to everybody. And it really clarifies Keep It Out of Aim on a very simple level, because we don't have to put up there with their abuse. We don't. And so to understand that, Mom, I love you, but I don't have to listen to you scream at me. It's just putting a loving boundary there, which again, if you had an abusive parent, there's no such thing as boundaries with them. So we cover all this in the course. Okay. Yeah, Rabbi Wallerstein, correct. It was just before he passed away, he wrote this book, and I bawl my eyes out when I read it. My mom died 2 years ago, and it's very catharsis for me to read this book, because on so many different levels, I'm reading it in her schools and sort of mourning the relationship that I wish I could, the daughter I should have been or could have been and didn't know. I didn't have the skills.